an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering The Hunger Games, Book 3, Mockingjay, Chapters 8, 9, and 10. In these chapters, things with Peeta are devolving quickly. There is an attack on 13. Remember, this is coming up very close on the heels of the attack on the hospital, from which there were no survivors. All together, it's just pretty bleak. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Are you coming to the tree? They strung up a man, they say, who murdered 3. Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you?
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
Okay, so Rashawn and I have been putting this off because we've been sitting here talking because we don't want to start talking about this sad section. But we got to.
Yeah, we are.
One of the first orders of business is that we've got to really talk about the attack on the hospital, because I live read that and we pick up right as the building collapses, basically, with chapter 8. It's just a really intense sequence, and I have told you that I have been reworking the live read schedule. And I can't tell you how difficult it has been, because there are so many sections that would be spectacular live reads. But I think it was Cindy in the Discord who pointed out that when I do live reads, the conversations can be less deep because things haven't been given a chance to marinate, So I am resisting my impulses to make it every other fucking chapter. However, next week's is going to be 11 and 12 you're reading, and I'm live reading you chapter 13.
Oh, I should make a note of that.
Yeah, go ahead and get that. I'm going to put the new schedule out there as well.
Yeah, I'm just going to go to 13 real quick and just write a note in the book. Don't read. All right. Because I was almost like, let me just live read 12 and 13, and then I was like, Natasha, calm down,
sweet baby, you have got to chill out a little bit.
Yeah, so here's the thing, kids, friends, listeners, compatriots, and comrades. I've been dancing around the big news of the day as we go through these books. But that last chapter.
Yeah.
The sort of sensation of reading a fictional account like The Hunger Games, while in real time we are watching a people get basically annihilated, has been really creating some tension within me, because I don't want to overrun the podcast with news of the day and current events and political discourse, and I want to keep our focus on the book that we're actually reading and talking about. But some of the parallels are the parallels in the book are so broad. They can, you can ascribe them to all kinds of moments in history, right? So we can go back and talk about different things that have happened. But the fact that we are living right now in real time watching something very similar play out. It just starts to feel like disingenuous that it's not like named, right?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I have been, I'm not sure what you guys are doing, but I feel like we're all kind of in the same space, you know, we're watching through whatever social media that we engage in, people being bombed into oblivion.
Yeah.
And we're watching, which is what is particularly disconcerting, is the sort of like media coverage as if both sides are equal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're reading these books and you're reading about the resistance of 13 and going up against the Capitol and their sort of meager, granted 13 does have nuclear capability, but that is kind of like off the table because that's end game, right? Like if that gets engaged, then it's a wrap for everybody. And that comes up in these chapters as well. But sort of like when Katniss goes to visit District 8 and you see these people fighting back with the little bit that they have, and then you see a hospital be bombed and everyone in it gone. And then you go to your news or for me, it's TikTok or whatever, wherever you guys are getting your info, and you're seeing in real time that this is happening, you know, in Gaza. And I just like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, what are we doing? Why don't we learn? And what is wrong with us? You know? And
Yeah.
I remember in the very first book, there's a moment where Peeta and Katniss are on the roof, and Peeta is talking about, what if we just don't play? You know, what if we opt out? And that turns out not to really be a possibility because they're on the roof and there's a force field, right? But then we have a person, a young man, a serviceman, who decides, Aaron Bushnell, who decides to no longer be complicit, right? Who decides to opt out in this extreme way in order to bring attention to it, to what's happening. And I'm thinking to myself about the moment where Katniss talks about having the berries and just the implication that she might do that, how that changes everything in the game. You know, that power in that moment where she's like, we could just take these berries and call it a wrap. And the whole thing changes. Like, I don't know. It feels like this book is hitting in ways I could not have possibly imagined, you know? Yeah. And I don't even know if it could have been imagined when we first decided to do these books, you know? I know you knew that like it was going to feel like this is real, right? But did you have any idea that it was going to hit the way it's hitting, considering what's happening in the world right now?
I can't remember when I did the reread how far we were into what's going on in Palestine now, like now specific, because obviously what's been going on in Palestine been going on for like decades.
It's been happening.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to pretend that this is like some new development, but as far as the recent developments that got it pushed to the top of the news cycle, I don't think that this was happening yet, but I feel like there was something that made me go, oh God, this is going to hit like really hard, and had me needing to take some breaks while I was reading. And I can't remember what it was. So I think that I did expect it to be like tough, but I had a whole different thing that I was expecting to go like to be the sort of discussion.
Right.
And whatever that was, I don't even remember anymore, because now it's a whole other thing that feels so much more direct a comparison. So I guess the short answer is no.
And like I get like how like this book, like, again, like it touches on so many things that we've experienced in our history, that it feels like anytime you read this, there's something going on in the world that you're going to just be like, well, goddamn, because we keep doing the same shit over and over and over again, right? So there's no shortage of that. But the fact that it is where we are right now in world events, it just feels so like on the nose to almost be like, I almost feel like I am overstating it. Like I'm making things up. You know what I mean? Because it's just that on the nose.
Yeah.
It feels, it's incredible to me that this was, this book is what? 2000, what did we say? 2010, 2011?
God, I wish I could keep these dates in my mind, because I look this shit up every friggin' time and I always forget.
Flipping to the beginning real quick. The copyright for this third book is 2010.
Okay.
So, it's not that old. And there always are things going on in the world where this, will resonate. But Jesus Christ, if it is not like hitting on all cylinders in this moment that we all find ourselves in.
Yeah.
And it's so much that there's so many parallels, where even like, if you remember at the very beginning of this most recent, the most recent of this conflict, which is going back to October 7th, and the way that we had our whole conversation being framed around what Hamas was doing, and we were all, and I'm saying we like collective, no indictments to us as individuals, but as a collective, we were just sort of like, well, terrorism is bad, with a capital B. And that's going to be the end of the conversation, right? Because that's how it had always played out in the past. And then, and I still haven't put my finger on why this moment is different. I mean, social media has got to be part of it, but I think there are other things at play that haven't been articulated yet. I'm not going to try to dive into them all in this moment, but for a myriad of reasons, this moment in history didn't play out like every other moment has. For whatever reasons, and there are plenty, a lot of people said, wait a minute. Wait a minute. What's going on? That doesn't seem right. And we have this such a binary thinking where it's like good guys and bad guys all the time, and we can get stuck in that. And so when we're reading about this, and I'm going back to the books now, when we read about this bombing at District 8, and then we see the Capitol's propaganda, right? And how they try to spin it. It's just like,
it's so, it's fucking word shit. Yep.
It is, right? It really is. Yep. And because these books are, 15 years old at this point or more, like this book is 14, but like the first book was before 2010. And it's still word for word. It means that we've been saying the same shit over and over again.
Yep.
The same talking points, the same
Taylor's oldest time. Yep.
And that is so fucking depressing. It's, Jesus Christ. What are we doing, y'all? What are we doing? We only have a small amount of time on this fucking rock floating in space. And the fact that this is what we do with the little bit of time that we have here is just fucking bonkers. It is.
I wanted to mention that Suzanne Collins, the author, her father was in the Air Force, and she cites that as being like a part of why she has a particular insight into the way that poverty and war, just a really combined with her having worked in reality television.
That says so much about why this is hitting the way it hits. She's really coming from a place of informed sort of, I don't know, just like she's coming from a place of like she knows what she's talking about because she's been surrounded by people.
He was in the Air Force. He was a military specialist. He was a historian, and he was a doctor of political science.
Oh.
And I'm reading this interview here, this clip. When I was a kid, he was gone for a year in Vietnam. It was very important to him that we understood about certain aspects of life. It wasn't enough to visit a battlefield. We needed to know why the battle occurred, how it played out, and the consequences. He had a gift for presenting history as a fascinating story and a good sense of how much a child could handle, which is quite a bit. So, yeah, that's
a fucking bar right there. How much a child could handle, which is quite a bit. Shit.
Kids don't understand, as we see a little bit later with the Hanging Tree song. Kids don't understand the way that adults do, the visceral realities behind some of the facts being shared. And so it can't hit them the same way that it does for adults. So I really do believe that we deeply underestimate kids' capacities because our empathy has increased and our imaginations are such that it just does a different thing with that information than a child's brain can do. But yeah. So agreed. I just wanted to mention that because like there's a reason why this feels like it's a playbook. You know, this is her citing something that has been done over and over and over throughout history. This is a playbook, you know, this is just, yup.
Yeah. Big yup. But, so yeah, chapter 8 starts with, them like just getting out and heading back to 13. After they fucking broke Boggs' nose. Someone in the
Boggs
group told me that Boggs is played by oh no, I've forgotten his name.
Mahershala Ali.
Yeah, that is phenomenal casting. I was so tickled by that. Oh yeah, because they were like, because I had said that I was picturing Coin as being black, and whoever it was, I think it was Austin, was like, Coin, the person who plays Coin isn't black, but Boggs is played by whose name I cannot
Mahershala Ali.
Mahershala Ali. So that was fun to find out. I can't wait to watch these movies and be both disappointed but also tickled.
It's such a frustrating because like I'm telling you that fucking casting is so on point. There are going to be people popping up that you're like, oh my God. And then you're going to be like, and you did that with them? That's all they got to do?
Oh no.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, but I'm going to warn you now because it is just over and over and over again.
Damn.
Sorry.
That's a damn shame. I mean, I'm thinking like the books, and we talked about this a little bit briefly too, because the way the books are written, it's happening so much in her head, it's hard to translate that to the screen. But my God, there's so much good shit in these books that they should have found a way. They should have figured some shit out because there's a lot to work with here. There's a lot.
I really want them to redo these. Like, I know that it's such a fucking cliche at this point to be like, oh, they're revamping, rebooting, whatever. But there are some things that need it. because they just weren't done well the first time. And in my opinion, these are
these movies made like $1 billion, right? Though, so I'm sure everybody is
super successful.
Everybody is very satisfied.
Super, super successful. I personally think, as I do every time you can set your watch to it, it shouldn't be a movie. It should be a miniseries. That's what it should be. 3 seasons, miniseries.
Somebody get Tubi on the line.
And get some non-name actors.
There you go.
Have them be regular people. I don't want to see a soul on the screen that I'm like, it's that guy from The Thing. No, I want them all to feel like they are just fucking people. And
who played
not
President
for it to be
Snow?
shiny.
Is that Donald Sutherland?
Yes.
I've seen pictures of him from I remember him being like in the commercials, but I didn't know who he played, but that makes sense. Was Jennifer Lawrence a thing?
Blood breath. Jennifer Lawrence was Katniss.
No. I mean, was she like a thing at the time when she was cast, or was she an unknown then?
She was at the very beginning of her career. So she wasn't an unknown, but she was definitely like, she just was not at the top of anybody's list, I don't think.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think of like what other big names they had in the movie. It's like following up on your idea of they should be like nobodies in the TV version.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to think like if they thought about doing that in the movies, like casting a bunch of like relatively unknown actors in these parts. I don't know if they were to redo it and make it like a mini series, a 12-part, 4-season maybe deal. I'd be into it.
Mm-hmm. It could be 4 seasons, to be fair.
I think so.
I think
yeah.
Keep it tighter, but they made it 4 fucking movies, so why not? I guess.
Was it 4 movies? Oh, they did the 3rd part into 2 parts, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
When did that become a? Never mind. We're getting all sidetracked. But that became a thing, and I do not like it.
Agree.
Twilight did
Don't even
it.
get me
Harry
started
Potter
on the
did
Hobbit.
it. Oh,
broken into 3 movies. Absolutely,
that is ridiculous. I
just so excessive. And nobody, like, even people who liked it, they didn't really like it. They were like, it was fine. It wasn't as bad as people say. It's like the best I have ever heard of it. It's so sad. Ugh. Anyway, okay. So Boggs' nose is broken. He's wearing this mask. Bless him. But yeah, this she's been injured. He picks her up and carries her once he realizes like how bad the damage is, and she just like vomits on him, and she thinks like, I can't tell, but I think he sighs. It's hard to tell, but I think he sighs, which is really funny to me.
It's so good. It's so good. And now that I'm picturing him in these moments, like that particular actor, 10/10. It's so good in my brain.
So they put her on this, like, it's not the comfy ride out that they had, it's whatever is closest is the sense you get. And send her back to 13. And she like wakes up already in the hospital with her mom right there, who is like, they didn't even tell us you were going out there.
Is heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. And Katniss is like, next time I'll clear it with you. And her mom is like, nobody fucking clears anything with me. And Katniss has a real
She's like,
moment
let's not lie to each other.
And like the idea that like your family has to send you off to the Hunger Games twice now. Mm-hmm. Right? Twice they have lived through this horror show. And then they get to this safe place and your daughter disappears again into danger and no one fucking thinks to tell you. Like,
I would be so pissed. Ugh. Yeah.
Best Katniss can do is like, all right, well, it won't be clearing it with you, but I'll at least have them fucking notify you.
She has had concussions. There was shrapnel in her leg. At first, she's like, oh, this breakfast is not enough. But then after she eats it, she's like hella nauseous. And she's sort of like, oh, I guess that was the right call. They want to like just straight up wheel her whole bed into this meeting. But she convinces them to do a wheelchair, which she almost resents until she like tries to sit up and realizes, oh God, okay, yeah, no, I need the wheelchair.
Yeah. I have overestimated my capabilities in this moment.
Exactly.
And they have to like wheel her down to the command center. and
she's so concerned that she's like going to get in trouble because they went into that battle. They were not supposed to do it.
She ripped her earpiece out. Her and Gale like ignored every order. They fucking kicked Boggs in the goddamn face. And they think that they are really about to be called out. And this is so wonderful. No one has dimed them out.
Not a soul.
Like,
because it would make them all look really bad. Oh, I don't know why, but that got me so bad. I'm just like, nobody wants that info out there, girl. We're good.
I love it. And there's a whole conversation about the people that she's been calling the insects, which are like the TV crew. Mm-hmm. She's like, you know what? I don't actually know any of your names.
I can't keep calling you the insect. And they're like, oh, actually. Yeah.
And so don't hate it. Right? They're like, yeah, it's we've been called worse. Yep. And we find out that the guys are named Castor and Pollux. And Pollux doesn't speak. And Katniss realizes he's an Avox.
Yeah.
Which, like, I had not considered that someone that could have been put through that at the Capitol would now be a rebel. Of course, like, it makes sense, right? Mm-hmm, but it just had not occurred to me. So for her to meet someone, and we know that Katniss has, like, you know, a little bit of a history with the redhead from earlier in the books. And then Darius was his name, I think, from District 12, who shows up to be her Avox. So
it's hard for me to tell sometimes when you suggest something whether or not that sounds right, or if it's just because you just said it right now. And I'm like, sure.
You basically can't trust me ever.
Same,
but
same.
But so that like feels like it hits her even not more than it would other people, but because she's got this history, when she realizes that he's an Avox, it's just like, for Katniss, she's just like, Jesus Christ, now I get it. Now everything that he does makes sense. Like, there's no reason to question why he's here, why he would risk everything. Like, it's clear as day what his motivation is. And there's something about that is interesting to me, because it's easy for us to empathize or understand why someone who has lost, air quotes, everything is down for the revolution, right? Because you're desperate. You've been pushed to this sort of extreme. But not everybody is going to have such a extreme story that makes their motivation so clear. And when something is very clear, we gravitate to it, right? Because we want like less resistance. We want the thing that's easy. We want the thing that makes sense in our brains.
Yes.
So what happens is when someone has not had a terrible thing happen to them and they're down for the revolution, then you're just like, well, what's going on with you?
What's your angle, buddy?
What are you doing here? But the minute she finds out that this Pollux guy is an Avox, she has no more questions. She's just like, oh, sorted. Understood.
There it is. Yeah. I really want her to ask that question about Plutarch.
And she doesn't.
Like,
not yet.
It feels like we're having him is such an advantage to us. Let's just not ask, and I get
what
it.
Is
He's
the advantage
been very
to you?
Helpful, but also I want to know what the fuck his deal is. Where did this all start?
Same. Same. Especially because as he's moving through this rebellion space, right, in District 13, he is still carrying all the airs, around him of being like an elite in the Capitol. He hasn't dropped any of that shit. He is clearly believing that there's going to be some sort of reward for him at the end game. Right, and she talks a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so, okay. This is when they show the propo that they have made with the footage that they got, and they have a really good reaction. Of course, it ends with, if we burn, you burn with us. And folks demand to see it again, so they replay it. And Katniss tries to sort of watch it with fresh eyes, as if she were seeing this in District 12 herself. And she's just like, there has literally never been anything like it on TV. There has never been any anti-capital stuff of any kind. It's like difficult to even wrap her mind around. And she asks if they saw it in the Capitol, and Plutarch says, no, we haven't figured out how to break into that, but we got it into 2, which actually may be a bigger win for us at this point.
Yeah.
And then she says, I think we should discuss this is coined, the decision to send Katniss into actual combat. And Katniss is like, the decision? Oh, this is a whole different thing than I was expecting. And Plutarch is like, well, it was a tough call, but we decided we weren't going to get anything good unless we did it. And the president's like, and you're cool with that? And for a second, Katniss is just spacing out. And then Gale has to kick her. And she's like, oh, yeah, yep, totally. That's fine. Yeah. Definitely want to just be doing something.
It felt good to be doing something.
Bless her. I really love them all for this whole bit. It's just really funny. Yeah. And later on, they're talking about what they're going to do after this one. I love Haymitch, too, who is off to the side going, yes, well, we wouldn't want to lose our little Mockingjay when she's finally begun to sing. And there's just this, like, acid.
Is so pissed.
He's so mad.
She's like, mental note, don't be alone with Haymitch because he's fucking pissed.
Oh, so pissed. So they're going to do a whole propo involving the hospital footage. They're going to do one about the there's the thing with like Fulvia, yeah.
This thing with Fulvia is so great. She is salty as fuck because she's the one that had the studio propos plan that like just bombed. And Haymitch's ideal, right? Haymitch's idea worked really well. So she's salty as fuck. So they have, and they are like I forget the other person's name. But they basically are just like, Fluvia has a great idea. It's brilliant, actually. And Fluvia's like, wait, what? I got a what now?
Fulvia. You keep saying Fluvia, which makes me think of mucus.
Oh my God. It's Fulvia. Sorry, y'all. But when she realizes that they're pushing her idea up, she's just like, oh, yeah, well, I'm not sure how brilliant it is, but I had this little idea.
Yeah, she wants to do like memorials for each of the tributes, a tribute for the tributes, and make things that are very personal to each district and sort of be reaching out to them. And Katniss like co-signs it as actually being brilliant. And it seems like this has completely fixed the attitude issue that we were seeing with Fulvia. And
it's not a bad idea, actually. It's
no,
like
it's not.
It's a little cheesy, but propaganda always is. And so, you got to do what you got to do.
So this is when Katniss, like they call it into the meeting. She goes to sleep. And then she wakes up and Haymitch is in the room right next to the bed.
Oh my God.
Who knows how long he's been sitting there just waiting for her to wake up. And
This is your
She is
earpiece.
like, I wish somebody was here to see and make sure that he doesn't hurt me because I am not feeling safe right now.
I will give you exactly one more chance to wear it. And if you remove it from your ear again, I'll have you fitted with this. And he has this fucking, like, head shackle.
Ugh.
I don't even know what to call it. It's like a giant head cage, I imagine.
I'm picturing
And
like the headgear for, fixing teeth that Lisa wears that goes over her entire,
God.
That's what I have
do
in my
know.
head. But and then he's like, and if you figure out how to do something with that, then I'll do this. And he says that there's a microchip and I'll have it implanted and I will be in your ear 24 hours a day.
That is the worst thing I have ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah,
having Haymitch in your head.
Very much like, oh, chilling. I'll pass. And he's like, are you sure? Because I would be fine with any of these. Doesn't make any difference to me. She's like, no, it's fine.
He's like, and by the way, I fucking ate your lunch.
I forgot that he said that too. Oh, bless him.
Oh, bless him. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about
like
that.
I'm going to report you. I mumble into my pillow. You do that, sweetheart.
Fucking hate
Oh, God. So Finnick comes in later on in the day, and they are going to watch the newest propo on the TV, sitting together, having something to eat.
Oh yeah, and he's going to be the one who narrates the We Remember spots too. So they're like bringing him sort of like into the, I don't know, into the fold doesn't seem quite right, but like trying to bring him to be a more active member of everything that's going on because he's been so he's been in a hospital ward this whole time. He's been such a mess. He hasn't really been partaking in anything that's going on in 13. So this is like his way to contribute.
Yeah, and they watch it again, and she's about to just be like, all right, just shut it off, when all of a sudden she sees Cesar Flickerman again on the screen, and she's like, wait, and here is Peeta.
Yeah, he is not looking great. He looked like great the first time we saw him, right? He was all healthy and shiny and washed and showered and makeup and everything. And now he's looking worse for wear. And
the healthy, clear-eyed boy I saw a few days ago has lost at least 15 pounds and developed a nervous tremor in his hands. They've still got him groomed, but underneath the paint that cannot cover the bags under his eyes and the fine clothes that cannot conceal the pain he feels when he moves is a person badly damaged.
Yeah,
and she's trying to figure out how this could have happened so quickly, and then she realizes that the original interview was probably taped weeks ago.
Yep.
And this is much more recent.
And this conversation that Caesar and Peeta are having is just like empty. It doesn't have the heart and soul that it usually has. And Caesar is just like, well, what do you think's going on with Katniss? And about her doing the propaganda for the rebels. And Peeta's just like, they're clearly, obviously just using her, to whip up the rebels. She probably doesn't even know what's going on. And Caesar says, what do you want to tell her? And Peeta says, don't be a fool, Katniss. Think for yourself. They've turned you into a weapon that could be instrumental in the destruction of humanity. If you've got any real influence, use it to put the brakes on this whole thing. Stop the war before it's too late. Ask yourself, do you really trust the people you're working with? Do you really know what's going on? And if you don't, find out. Now, we've already had questions. Katniss has already had some, unsettling moments, some moments of doubt about who she's working with and whether or not they're the, air quotes, good guys. And this message from Peeta has got her kind of spinning.
Yeah.
And Finnick cuts the power off, and they end up pretending like they didn't see it at all.
That's the part that's really gross.
Yeah,
they pretend they don't see it, and then nobody tells her.
Yep.
And she, like, this goes on for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that I was really like, wow.
Yeah.
They are really just going to hold that info out, which is so wild because, like, you guys, how long do you think you can keep that up before they air another one? And you know, like,
I'm just like these are people she's supposed to be throwing in with and trusting.
Mm-hmm.
And they're lying to her the first chance they get. Everyone is, too. Gale included. Yep. I don't know how she keeps her head on straight. I really don't.
It's really just him saying they're just using her. It feels fucking exactly correct.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that if you are just not giving her crucial info because you're worried her performance will suffer, what the fuck are you treating her like? Like she's a robot.
Again,
no negative input. Yeah, it's just really, really, really gross. Yeah, the obviously seeing him like this has a huge effect on her. She's having trouble sleeping. All she can think about, because like previously she was truly like losing her mind over what was going on with Peeta, saw that he was healthy and seemed like okay. And so that calmed her a little bit. And now this is being put into her head to cause, like, it feels very purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
They know she's going to see this footage.
It feels that way.
They want to upset her. And so they're letting her see him in this state. And the way that this is just like on her mind constantly.
Yep.
And nobody is talking to her about it. It's like a nightmare. It just
says she's walking around waiting for someone to bring it up. Like, mm-hmm. I keep waiting for people to bring up Peeta's appearance, and no one says a fucking thing. And she's like,
yep.
I know y'all fucking saw it. I know it wasn't just me and Finnick who saw it. So what the fuck is going on? And there's just like silence.
It's, yeah. So let's see. I'm trying to find the spot here. Oh yeah. She's thinking about what Peeta said and find out what from who, and how can Peeta know anything except what the Capitol tells him. And at first she's just like, I'm just blowing it off. But then she's like, well, wait, if Plutarch thinks it's just the Capitol line, why didn't he tell me about it? Why hasn't anyone let me or Finnick know? And eventually she gets up, she goes and gets her schedule, goes to breakfast, and Gale is there having breakfast, and he has a communicuff on again.
Yep, he's back. He's back in the good graces.
Mm-hmm.
I guess she's one like, of us has to be accessible.
Look at your new toy. How'd you get that? What's going on? She's so mad.
Yeah. And it's a moment where she doesn't realize just how pissed off she is with Gale until she sees him and they lock eyes, and she realizes she's got all this feeling going in. And she's just like, I can't believe you haven't fucking come and told me. Like, I know you fucking saw it, but she doesn't say any of this. And he looks at her and realizes, and he starts to say Katniss, and she says, the admission of guilt is in his tone, which I think we've all experienced at one point in our lives, right? Where just the way somebody says your name or answers you, everything is in it. Everything is right there. And she doesn't want to hear it. She fucking just gets her shit up. I think they're like having breakfast or whatever, and she just like slams her tray and like starts to walk away, and he grabs her in the hallway. And she's just like, why didn't you fucking say something to me? And he's like, why didn't you tell me?
The fuck do you mean, sir?
he's wildin'. He's wildin' right now.
This is some nonsense.
When I asked you last night about what was going on, you didn't say anything. And he's just like, oh, well, I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't know what to do. I wanted to tell you. But everybody was afraid that seeing Peeta's propaganda would make you sick. So I just didn't say anything. So you, sir, are now going along with all these other people. Mm-hmm. Instead of having the relationship that you and I have and trusting what you and I have. You're already deferring to them and what they say. Now I got to look at you out the corner of my eye.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I don't want to, but that's where we are now.
Apparently. And they get interrupted here. Like there's just, she says, oh, there's Coin. Better run. You have things to tell her. And it says, for a moment, real hurt registers on his face. Then cold anger replaces it. Maybe I have been too spiteful, not given him enough time to explain. No.
Girl, don't do that to yourself.
No. Mm-mm. He doesn't get to be angry with you. I'm so sorry, but he just doesn't. This is not you. How can he not see how much of a betrayal that is? Like, the fact that he isn't seeing the way she's being played right now as like a mirror to the way the Capitol used her.
Yeah.
That is just saying it all to me.
And it's really startling to me that he doesn't see it, you know? And maybe because, and this might be me being like, I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses for Gale, but maybe because he didn't go through the games with her, he doesn't get that enormous sense of just being like a plaything, being a pawn, right? And doesn't get how that would make her feel, because everything that we've known about Gale, which granted comes through Katniss's sort of skewed POV, but his well-founded hatred of the Capitol is causing him to throw in 100% with the people in 13 with like no discernment, you know? Yeah. He's just like, oh, I met other people that hate the Capitol as much as I hate them. That makes us besties. You know
that
what
is
I mean?
Kind of it, you know, the enemy of my enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it is sort of like, that simple, it seems like.
You know, and we always want it to be that simple, but it very rarely ever is. And Gale is just, you know, so he must be, like, the little bit that I know about Gale from Katniss's POV, he must be so grateful to finally be around people who have the same sort of animosity and acrimony for the Capitol that he has always felt in his heart. It must feel so comfortable, like he's home finally, right? Mm-hmm, he's with his people. But it is really clouding the way that he interacts with Katniss, because while Katniss is the face and the sort of symbol of this rebellion, her experience has been really shaped by what she went through being in the games. And Gale didn't go through that. You know, so they are not the same. They are not the same. And I think he thinks they are.
That's interesting. Maybe you're right. That it's just like that simple, that kind of trauma that he hasn't experienced.
You know, like he has his own, and I'm not dismissing that, you know, he has his own trauma from living under that sort of oppression, and then what, you know, the beating that he took, and the way that they had to live and take care of his family and all that trauma. Like, that's legitimate, but it's not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah.
And I don't think he realizes that it's different.
I think you're right. I don't think he has tried too hard to see things from her perspective for the most part.
It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
And I think that if we wanted to even like, wade into the muddy waters of the like love triangle that's sort of like brewing underneath all this, that would be his biggest sort of like insecurity around Peeta, is that Peeta went through the games with Katniss. Peeta
Mm,
knows. And
yeah.
Peeta knows something that Gale will never know. You know, he knows a side of Katniss that Gale will never know. He's been through things with Katniss that Gale will never be through with Katniss. And if you think you love someone or know you love someone and there's someone else in the picture and they have a connection that you just simply cannot touch, that's going to make you feel away.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah.
So at this point, they get approached about going back to 12 and doing some filming there. And Katniss just barely remembers to notify her mother before they go.
Oh my God. I didn't mean to laugh, but like,
Yeah.
as someone who's got a lot going on and means well and wants to keep like, you know, everybody like informed and shit just flying in and out of your brain. When she was like, oh my God, wait. I was like, girl, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, she like tells her and she's like, she's assured that it'll be perfectly safe. And I'm like, yeah, we've heard that before though. Don't bother saying that part. There's no point to that. And there's a moment here. There's several of them, but I'm just going to mention this one off the top with Plutarch talking about how marvelous Finnick is because of his like performance for the We Remember spots, and Cressida is like, it's really painful to watch, and he's like, yeah, but that's what makes it so good. And it's just like, fucking Plutarch, can you please have any tact at all, sir?
There's so
Jesus
many moments
Christ.
of him doing this. He is
over and over again.
When I picture Plutarch in my head as I'm reading, I picture him in like he's floating in a bubble. He is. He's like, he's here, but he's removed. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing about the way he acts or reacts that suggests that he ever feels concerned for his own well-being at all. Like he's just somehow floating above all of this, you know? Like I'm going to be fine regardless. And that is not based in reality, sir. You're not going to be fine, you know, regardless of what happens. But he operates as if, you know, oh, I'm good. Don't worry about me. I'm good.
He's just lived that kind of life. Semi-charmed kind of life.
Ma'am, how dare you? How dare you bring up a song from 1997?
Oh, God. It's fucked up because that song is actually like not about that really, but that's the title of it, so I had to do it.
We appreciate your efforts.
Anytime. So the visit to 12, like at first when she hears that Haymitch isn't coming because he felt like he couldn't do it without getting drunk first, she's like, this fucking guy. And then as soon as they're there, she's like, oh fuck, I really wish
I had a bottle.
It's bad. And she's having a hard time. They're, you know, filming her at her old house, and all she can do is sort of stand and stare. And Gale is like put much more on the spot.
Yeah, they end up taking Gale and making him sort of like the face of this moment, making him relive like all the horrors that he's been through. And I mean, I know I just said a bunch of shit about Gale. It's not that I'm not sympathetic, because I am. I deeply am. But Gale, I don't know. It's not that this isn't real for him. It is, right? It really is. But there's something about it that, I don't know, maybe he's better at being on camera than Katniss is. Not as good as Peeta, but like better than Kat. Well, everybody would be better than Katniss, though, right?
Honestly, though.
That's a really low bar. But yeah, he carries this. He's like, all right, so let's do the thing, and I'll take you through. in a way that she is not able to do.
Yeah, she's fucking discombobulated. By the time we reach the lake, Gale seems to have lost his ability to speak. Everyone's dripping in sweat, especially Castor and Pollux in their insect shells, and Cressida calls for a break. So they are at that little like abandoned house, and everybody has something to eat, and Katniss purposely goes and sits next to Pollux because she doesn't want to talk. So she goes and finds the Avox and is just like, yeah, what's up?
Genius.
And he asks her, at first he like gestures up to the Mockingjays that are clustering around them. And she whistles Rue's 4 notes and they sing it back.
Yeah. I love this whole thing.
Yeah. He uses a twig to write a word in the dirt. Sing? Usually I'd decline, but it's kind of impossible to say no to Pollux given the circumstances. And so she sings The Hanging Tree. This song, in my mind, is like just a masterpiece. It is so chilling once you reach the end of it and realize what's actually going on in the song. And this is the song I've been using, by the way, as our theme song for the show. Okay. I'm going to play, I have it loaded up here in the Zencaster. So I'm going to play it so that you can hear this is the movie version. In the audiobook she sings, but it's a different version of the song, which is also really good. But this is like the official version from the movie. This was in concert. Let's see.
Are you coming to the tree? They strung up a man, they say, who murdered 3. Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.
So that's that. I love the tune from both. They go hard on the minor keys in both versions, understandably. And the way it begins is just, it sounds like, oh yeah, let's just meet up here. And then by the end you find out that it's like, no, come kill yourself.
Wear a necklace of rope side by side with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she tells the story about how her father sang it to her one time, and she sang it and her mother heard them singing and freaked the fuck out. And they never
understandably
sang it again.
She and her sister were making fucking like rope necklaces while they were singing it. Not a scene that you want to come across as a mom, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's giving strange fruit vibes.
And the necklace of rope, they changed that for the movie and made it necklace of hope because they couldn't handle how dark it was.
No, really?
Yeah, completely undercut
That's
it.
so fucking not what's happening here.
That's a perfect example of the movies, my friend. That's like my exhibit A about how they do not get it.
That is so disappointing. Because this is so powerful and they just fucking neutered it.
Yep.
Oh, gross.
Yep.
What?
Agreed.
And you know what? That's American audiences just want to be entertained.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're children.
I'm saying every choice that they made with these movies were the same choices the Capitol would have made. Like there was just, they didn't do it with that awareness is the problem, because you can do that and have that be part of the point and it be sort of like grotesque on purpose, but there wasn't that awareness. It was done with total sincerity. And that's the part that's like, oh my God, you guys, you clueless idiots.
That's a fucking bummer.
Yeah.
I love this
I just
line
love
too.
where I told you to run so we'd both be free. Like you think that we're going to go here and escape together. And it's like, no, the only escape is to die. Like that's the ultimate freedom.
Yeah.
Grim.
Yep. And you know what? They're pushing us there every day.
Yep.
Closer and closer and closer. This bit too, when she talks about her mom hearing them and just being like, forget this song, forget you ever heard it. And because she was told to forget it, that meant it was like tattooed in her brain forever.
Yes.
Because that is how that goes.
The fucking truth. So of course, the song gets picked up by the birds. They're singing it. And she's thinking like, well, at least they're not. And then all of a sudden she goes, oh, fuck. And she realized they are taping her. Pollux has tears running down his cheeks because no doubt my freaky song has dredged up some terrible incident in his life. Great. I sigh and lean back against the trunk. And they begin singing it, and then Cressida calls out cut, and Plutarch crosses to me laughing. Where do you come up with this stuff?
Have you ever wanted to punch somebody that didn't exist?
Swear to God.
It's golden. You're golden. I wasn't doing it for the cameras. Lucky they were on then, he says. Jesus Christ. Like, Plutarch is like, who would have made this the Hollywood movie, right? Like, he's in the screening room. He's a producer.
Yup. Absolutely. Definitely. He's just infuriating. So as they're walking back, they pass the spot where her and Gale would always meet up. And they both have this like tell where they look in the same direction, and Cressida immediately clocks it and is like, what's going on? And as they go and check the place out, she's thinking about the depth of loss they've all suffered and the like situation at hand, and just sort of doing the like, how did we get here, to the point where we're barely even speaking to each other. Like, this is not the way we need to be going forward together. And she decides to try and reach out to him a little bit, and does the may the odds and tosses him a berry, and he like just watches her as the berry falls and doesn't respond right away. And then he finally like grabs it and says, be ever in your favor. And it's like, there's almost a grudging sense to it, but he does it, you know? Yeah,
he does say it. Then she's just like, all right, well, I'll take that. That's something, you know? And then Cressida has them like sitting around different places and like taking like more film. And when it says, when the conversation turns to how it felt to translate our skills with weapons to bombing, I stopped talking and Gale just says, it felt long overdue. Which is, I feel like, really indicative of the two of them, you know?
Yeah.
Gale has had such a rage, like a righteous rage, not self-righteous, but a righteous rage. And these moments that he's having as part of the rebellion feel like, this is what I've been trying to get to my whole life. You know, this is what I've been wanting. And Katniss is in these moments with him, but the experience is just so different for her, because I don't know if she articulated or fully understood that this is what she wanted for herself. I don't think it's ever really what she saw for herself in a way that Gale saw it for himself, you know? So, again, not to be like dismissive of Gale. I don't want it to seem like I'm shitting on him a lot, but you know how you can, within your oppression, you can start to fantasize about like what you would do, if you could, you know, all the things you would do to make things better. You'd be a freedom fighter or whatever. And that's like what Gale's deal is, you know? So all of this that's happening feels like it's about fucking time. But for Katniss, it's just, it's much more of being like thrust into this position and not necessarily having dreamt of being in this position your whole life. And it's just, they're just two very different situations.
I really wonder if he had gone into the games, if that would have changed the way he's approaching all of this. If maybe he would be the exact same way, you know, I'm not trying to say that it would have made him think differently on this. I'm actually thinking it may have made him even more bloodthirsty about it. You know, I'm just curious, like
that's
how that would have turned out.
I think you're right. I think it would have cemented the feelings he already had and made him even more like radical. But I think it would be tinged with, because here's the thing, from what I know about Gale, his first, and this is just what we know from Katniss, his first experience with taking someone's life was in District, where were they at, 12? No, they were in 8. They were in 8 first. When he's on the rooftop, like taking down the planes and stuff. Like, he hasn't really killed anybody. Katniss has killed people, you know? Yeah. Not capital people, not peacekeepers, not military people. She's killed tributes, you know?
Yeah.
And that's not something Gale has dealt with. The taking of a life to preserve your own in that sort of really intimate way. And I feel like if he had been put in the games, he might be less likely to see 13 with these sort of rose-colored glasses, I think. I think he'd be a little bit more jaded if he had been to the games, you know, and been a little bit more wary of power, period. And not just power at the Capitol, you know?
Oh, man. Yeah, it's funny because, you know, like last episode, we were both really feeling Gale with how just completely
shit was badass.
Was.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Immediately just like, oh, look at him just following her up saying, don't stop. Let's do this. Let's go. It's time. But it just has a different energy.
It does.
When you're not in the heat of things. And it's you cold-bloodedly standing back from the violence going, they deserve that. It's just different. It just feels different. I'm not trying to say it's right or wrong. I guess I am a little bit. But yeah. So she goes back to the Victor's village to pick up a bunch of stuff for her mom, like all of her supplies, and that's when Gale comes in, and it turns out he remembers her kissing him.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. And he says, maybe I'll be like that man in the hanging tree, still waiting for an answer. Gale, who I have never seen cry, has tears in his eyes. To keep them from spilling over, I reach forward and press my lips against his. I knew you'd kiss me. How? Because I'm in pain. That's the only way I get your attention. Don't worry, Katniss. It'll pass. He leaves before I can answer. Brutal. damn.
Right?
There is
Like,
something about that assessment that feels so rough. Like, god damn. Oh, I look, we were just talking before we started about how people saying shit to you in a matter-of-fact way rather than a hurtful way is so much more hurtful. Because it's not even about insulting you. It's just an observation.
Mm-hmm.
And this is such a good example of that, of him just being like, well, yeah, this is how you are. And I'm sure it'll be over soon. Like,
no one wants to be seen in this way. No one wants to be seen this fully, right? Like none of us want to be perceived in this way. We want an air of mystery. We want to think that our motivations are unclear and cloudy and no one can quite make them out. To be called out so efficiently.
Yep.
And to be so on the nose with it. It's gotta suck for Katniss.
And it's somebody who like really likes her, still very clear-eyed, being like, this is just what you do. I'm not taking it personally. I'm not getting my hopes up based on it. God knows, like,
right. Because then the next moment you'll be on something else. You won't even be thinking about me or kissing me. Ugh, yeah. No one likes this.
So she gets back, goes to bed, and when she gets up and is about to, like, she's having breakfast, I think, or no, it's dinner time because she sleeps through most of the next day, I think. She runs into Boggs, and I love when he's like, there's a meeting, so ignore your schedule, and she's like, no problem. And he just looks at her like, did you fucking do anything that was on it today? And she's like, I'm disoriented. And she holds up her wrist where there's supposed to be a medical bracelet, but it's
not even a fucking she's bracelet. Like, see? I can't even remember. They took my bracelet. And so they go into this meeting.
Yep. Go ahead.
I was just saying that's where they were heading, to the command. And they have Beatty has some footage that he wants to show so that we can see what he's got planned. And it says Beatty thinks he's found a way to break into the feed nationwide, which they haven't been able to do just quite yet. And there's going to be a live program tonight, and Snow is going to make an appearance. And so they all head down to the command room to watch that. And they watch the Capitol come on the air. And Snow is at his podium, but there's a like a barricade around it. It's definitely not the like freewheeling situation it had been before. This is like a much more secured situation. Like this is a president at wartime. You know how we do when our presidents are at war, where they like wear bomber jackets and roll the sleeves up, and that's how you know they're mean business. It's like that.
Yep. Correct. I hated that though.
Oh my god, and they all do it. They all do it. Like we've seen it over and over, and they all fucking do it. Like when they're on a campaign trail and they have like a pin behind their ear and their white, long sleeve button up is rolled up because they're like doing some work.
I'm out here in the garden planting votes with my trusty trowel. My vote tractor. So this is Peeta's looking really, really bad. She's like, he's definitely worse. We get some news about different areas that are getting like a lot of particular damage infrastructure that's, fucking up all kinds of trade and shipping, and the fact that they're like not, and again, feeling very called out on some of this stuff because as a Capitol resident, we have experienced some of these sorts of interferences on our end. There was a massive issue with shipping for a little while because of a lot of things that come from Asia, from, like dropship sites like Shein and Temu, and they were running into like a bottleneck and it was slowing things down a lot. And me, like a fucking goon, I'm like, oh, my stuff's going to be like 5 days later than usual. What the hell is going on?
This is unacceptable.
And then I found out why. And I was like, oh God, Jesus. Like I have never felt like such scum in my life. It was a real slap in the face. And yeah, to read this part, I was just like, okay, thanks again for that, Suzanne. Jesus Christ. So they're intercutting, they're managing to actually break through into the Capitol now.
Phenomenal. They're like interrupting this broadcast, and it's like a fight between the Capitol broadcast and the Rebel broadcast, and like Beatty is just fucking, he's wearing them out.
It's amazing. He's just fucking poking them like a pet that just wants to sleep, and but you're too cute when you're awake. Wake up. And as this is happening, Peeta can see her, like it's on the monitor. So it's throwing him off because he's meant to be like reading this thing off of a script, and then this just and completely cuts into it. And Plutarch's in spasms of delight, and most everybody is cheering Beatty on, but Finnick remains still and speechless beside me. I meet Haymitch's eyes from across the room and see my own dread mirrored back. The recognition that with every cheer, Peeta slips even farther from our grasp.
Yeah. Nobody in the room is thinking about this. None of them.
They're standing right there looking like probably pale and shaken, and there's not a soul who even notices. The set is in turmoil. We're hearing frantic exchanges from their booth. Snow plows forward, saying that clearly the rebels are now attempting to disrupt the dissemination of information they find incriminating. But both truth and justice will reign.
I swear to God, this is like from the headlines. This is from the fucking headlines of today.
Yep.
The way they talk about the way stuff is coming out and being disseminated on social media, and the way they talk about how, oh, well, you can't trust what you just saw there, and clearly they're manipulating image.
Yep. Finally, Snow is like, do you have anything to say to Katniss? He says, Katniss, how do you think this will end? What will be left? No one is safe, not in the capital, not in the districts. And you in 13, he inhales sharply as if fighting for air. His eyes look insane. Dead by morning. Off camera, Snow shouts, end it. And they hear Peeta trying to speak. They see the camera knocked down. And then they hear the sound of Peeta being hit and blood splattering the tiles.
Yep.
So that's the end of 9.
The impact of the blow that's inseparable from Peeta's cry of pain. Like, it's... what he just did in this moment. You know, what he just risked. Jesus Christ. Fucking Peeta. My God.
A real one.
For real, right?
Yep.
I can't believe how suspicious I was of this motherfucker 2 books ago. Like I was
I forgot about that.
I don't know what this guy is into. I don't know about this guy. I don't like it. It's sus. Oh,
that I forgot. No, I'm so glad you reminded me of that.
No,
Bless you.
I did not see it for him, and just was just like, what is his angle? I don't believe what he's saying. This is bullshit. And now look at him. I feel I am chagrined. Is what I am.
So we go to chapter 10, which is part 2, the assault, and Katniss is in basically a full-on panic attack meltdown.
Yeah.
And nobody fucking notices. All they are trying to do is like, well, what he said? What could that mean? And finally, Haymitch is like, what do you mean? What does it mean? You fucking morons. It means there's an attack coming. Are you serious?
How did you miss that? It was right there. And then they're like, well, how could we believe him? How should we trust him? Did you not hear get his ass beat? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm sure that they would definitely like beat the shit out of him on camera for lying to us and saying some shit. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Everybody
Haymitch
get real.
Literally has to say, Katniss, please, like, fucking help me out. Tell them. Because these people don't know. They don't, again,
No.
Anyone who has, and I don't mean to make this a us versus them thing, but the people who were in the games, Haymitch, Katniss, Peeta, they know some things that other people just can't know because they've been through some things that other people haven't been through. And this is one of those moments where the connection of having been in the games is so clear. The connection of having been together and spent time together and knowing each other. You know, Haymitch has to ask Katniss to co-sign what he's saying, which, you know, has got to pain Haymitch tremendously to ask Katniss to co-sign anything.
True though. So finally they convince them, and I love Coin is like taking forever, and she says, it is conceivable that given our current alliance with the rebels, those would be viewed as acceptable risks. You think so? Says Haymitch. It's a shade too sincere, but the subtleties of irony are often wasted in 13. I
cackled. That is so
He's
good.
doing oh no, really, you think?
Right? A doy.
Oh, God. So, Katniss is like, I'm waiting for them to just completely lose their minds. But I forgot, I'm in 13, and that is not how they do things here.
No.
Everything is so organized. Boggs guides Finnick and me out of command along the hall to a doorway onto a wide stairway. And there is alarms going off, and everybody is just following the protocols that they have been drilled in.
There's no chaos.
Down the stairs.
There's no freaking out. There's no panic. They're just like, oh, we know what this sound means. And they just get in fucking formation. It's a little disconcerting. I mean, I guess they're trained to do this, but the efficiency and how well organized it is and how there's just no panic whatsoever is a little like, are y'all robots? What the fuck is happening?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I wanted to mention too, because like they get down, so they go down and she's like, we're to the point where my ears are popping. Yeah. That's how far underground we are. And there is a spot where she has to scan her arm. And it says, so that I'm accounted for. No doubt the information's going to some computer somewhere to make sure no one's gone astray. So tell me how, at the end of this chapter, they're about to close the doors in Prim and Gale's faces.
Yeah. Questions that need answers.
I really don't get that. Like, and I'm pretty much positive that there's not like, we don't circle back to that, but I just that I thought that was the point. What is it that you're doing then?
My theory is that, and this is not supported in the text so far, and based on what you just said, it will never be supported in the text. But my theory is, along with each person that's registered, there's a sort of level of importance of the person, if that makes sense, right? So
a hierarchy.
A hierarchy, right? So certain people are going to blink red and you can't close the door until they get there, like Coin or Boggs. And then other people, it's like, sucks to suck. And that's the best I could come up with. So, like, I feel like if Katniss wasn't there, those doors don't close. But Gale and Prim, those doors can close. Because Gale, even though Gale's got the communicuff and he thinks he's the shit, right? Not that he thinks he's the shit, but he's like, you know, working with them and part of the deal and all that shit. He's not, he doesn't have that special alert.
They're just so close to Katniss, though. They have to know that if they go, she's not working for them anymore. That's it. That's a wrap on Mockingjay action. I
wonder if they understand that, though. Like, that's the weird thing about the people in 13, right? Like, they're so different. They're so, the way that they have had to survive is so different. And it appears, and we haven't got a lot of information about anybody else in 13, but it appears the sort of sentimentality that exists for the rest of the districts doesn't exist here. You know, it's just so, I wish I could think of the word that I want.
She had to make a deal for them to spare Peeta for her to be willing to be the Mockingjay, though. Like,
and you think that would register with them, but I don't think it does. I don't think it does. You know, like the fact that she made this deal to spare Peeta's life, and then Peeta gives them this heads up, and Coin still needs to, like, can we trust him? How do we know?
Yeah, you know? I guess that's true.
Like, we've already told you how important he is, that he's part of the immunity deal. And she's still like, well, I don't know. What do you think? What should we do?
Yeah, you make a good point with that, I guess.
Yeah, I don't love it, but yeah, and there's something floating around in my brain about 13 that is based on like some other pop culture, like movie or TV show or something, but I haven't made the connection yet. But it's floating around in the back of my brain, and I can't wait till those synapses get to work so I can share with you guys what's floating around in the back of my head. But the way
I look forward to it.
The way that they are in 13 is almost like they're all so detached, and there's like very little emotion that we've seen from anybody in 13. There's no like when Katniss says they don't react that way because this is 13, you know, there's just sort of a dulling of, I don't want to say emotion, but like sort of a dampening of heightened emotion, you know? I don't want to say that like they're dead inside. They're not dead inside, but they're, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm getting to? Like, they're just very, very, very subdued.
They've been beaten down?
But they don't think of it as being beaten down. But I'm
not asking how they think of it.
But yeah, they have been. I think that there's been just a real like pushing down on the parts of us that are human that are like uncontrolled. You know, I almost want to say histrionics. You know, there's just none of that. You know, there's no like over emoting. There's no like heights of joy or like depths of sadness. It's just this weird sort of median that's maintained. You know, everything is gray and drab, and nobody feels anything to a great extent. You know, it's just all sort of like, oh, okay, the sirens are blaring and it's deafening and almost painful, but we have no reaction to it. We just know what it means. It means go downstairs, you know, no big deal. How are these sirens that she's described to us to be like painful to hear, and no one is having a reaction to them at all? There's like no rushing. There's no stampeding. There's no panic. There's just, oh, those noises mean we do this thing. You know,
I'm wondering if it's just that they have been under such strain that there's no room for it.
Like, yes.
it's like with us and every new horror, we're just like, oh, wow.
Yeah, we're getting there ourselves. Yeah, we're getting there
mm-hmm.
ourselves. You become desensitized
Yeah.
to like all this sort of extraneous sort of stimulus. You know, you're just like, okay, that's what we're doing now. All right, I guess that's what we're doing now. Okay. Yeah, it's and this is what I mean when like is this the alternative to the Capitol? Because this way of living also not great.
Yeah, really.
Don't want this either.
I have to agree with that. So they're now in this like underground, you know, and she is looking around at the fact that it's clearly been made to stay for a while. There's kitchens, there's bathrooms, like a first aid station.
Yeah.
And
I love the
Plutarch comes up.
description. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say really quickly, I love the description that as she gets down to where her quarters actually are, it's like partially man-made, but also still very like earthy. Like the bunkers are like carved into the walls, but there's also like reinforcement and steel and everything. Like they've created this, you can tell that it's been built in to, I guess, the earth. Like it's like, you know.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I just thought that was fascinating.
But this is when Plutarch comes up and, here you are. Katniss, obviously this is a bad moment for you, what with Peeta's setback, but you need to be aware that others will be watching you. What? I can't believe he's actually just downgraded Peeta's dire circumstances to a setback. The other people in the bunker, they'll be taking their cue on how to react from you. If you're calm and brave, others will try to be as well. If you panic, it could spread like wildfire. Fire is catching, so to speak, he continues, as if I'm being slow on the uptake. Why don't I just pretend I'm on camera, Plutarch? I say. Yes, perfect. One is always much braver with an audience. Look at the courage Peeta just displayed.
My God.
It's all I can do not to slap him.
This fucking guy.
I've got to get back to Coin before lockdown. You keep up the good work, he says, and then heads off. This fucking man.
This guy. Like, I know he's supposed to be on our side, whatever that fucking means, but my God. Oh, Jesus.
It's part of why it having been Philip Seymour Hoffman in this role is so great, because he's so good at this type of like morally ambiguous kind of character where it's like, you know, there's something about him that's very likable, but is that the same thing as being a good person?
It is not.
Probably not. So she's sitting and waiting,
trying to be likable.
I don't know who you're speaking to.
I was speaking of myself.
Okay. See, this is why I asked. Who are you speaking to? Rashawn?
I wasn't trying to imply anything about you, Natasha.
Of course. I certainly didn't take it that way. So, her mother comes down. And her mother does not, she's like, where's Prim? And she's like, isn't Prim here? Her mother came down fully expecting Prim to have already gotten here.
Prim left.
She left the hospital 10 minutes ago. And Katniss has to take a moment and she's like, fuck, she went for the fucking cat. It takes her like 2 seconds to realize what's happening here.
I just want to say, I knew exactly where Prim was. I don't usually pick up on shit like that, but I knew exactly where she was. I was like, she went back to the fucking cat, because that's what I would have done. And my ass would have got locked out of the bunker, and then I'd be bombed to smithereens because I went back for the fucking cat.
But you'd have the cat's approval when you died, and
listen, that is the only thing that matters.
Let us be likable or die. Man. So she goes to the doors and she sees that they're starting to close. And she just manages to like slam her foot or her arm, like her hand and arm through. And it gets them to stop just enough to not totally crush her. And she can hear Prim coming down with Gale. And they manage to squeeze through. And she's like, the fuck were you thinking? And she's like, I can't leave him again. Like, you know, I should have drowned you when I had the chance.
Katniss saying the quiet part out loud.
She is so over this fucking cat. His ears flatten and he raises a paw. I hiss before he gets a chance, which seems to annoy him a little.
You ever hiss
Oh, Katniss, don't tease him. Yes, I have.
I do all the time.
They always just seem like, what? Like, disgusted a little bit, you know? Like, did she just make a me noise? What is she? Did she think she's one of us?
They always look at me.
What is that?
You know, they look at me like, your accent is all wrong, girl. You're not hitting that right.
I am really embarrassed at that pronunciation. You thought you said this,
right?
but you said that. And that is so humiliating for you.
You just asked me how my horse was doing. Like some shit like that, right?
Oh my God. So finally they hear Coin and just letting all of them know, like, great job, everybody. This is not a drill, by the way. We've got real good information that this shit is happening. And that's when the first bomb hits.
Yeah. Peeta was right. He fucking really
Prim's
did tell
theory
them.
is that this is like a bunker missile, which is why, even though they are so far underground, they can still feel it to the point that the vibrations are like inside their body.
Yeah. Katniss was like, do you think it's fucking nuclear? I love how this dynamic between her and Prim, because she says too, like, after they get like sort of hunkered down, she's just like, you know what? I haven't been spending a lot of time with Prim, and I haven't been taking care of her the way I used to and the way I should have. And so it's nice to have this time with her. But Prim did this whole little sequence here is just like, yeah, no, I don't think it would be nuclear, because that would just be, you know, probably a bit much, but it's probably just got a lot of explosives in them. It could be either way. Like, I don't know for sure, but Prim is having to have grown up so fast. And she is like, I think of Prim the way Katniss does, because, you know, again, that's who's telling me this story. So I think of her often as just being this very tiny little girl who doesn't know anything about what's going on in the world and is just like wide-eyed and like confused and
must be
in
shielded
danger and must be shielded. But that's not who she is at all. She's out here working in the hospital with her mother. We find out that she's like, you know, they've offered to train her as a doctor. And this is the second time in the last two episodes where Prim has been up at night with Katniss, comforting Katniss in a way, you know, and being sort of someone that Katniss can talk to. I almost wanted to say, and I hate to say this because I don't like this when it's happened to children. I didn't like it when it happened to me. But Prim is being the adult that the mom... Katniss isn't giving the mom an opportunity. I don't want to say the mom can't be. I'm going to say Katniss is not giving the mom the opportunity to be. Because I don't know what the mom's capabilities are at this point. But I do know that Katniss doesn't trust her mom with this heavy information. And Prim is turning out to be the person that she can have these moments with. Which makes me happy for them, but also deeply sad.
Yeah. It's interesting because Katniss was definitely the parent for such a long time. And now it's like she's so damaged that Prim is realizing my turn, you know?
Yep. And I want the mom to be the person, because she's the adult here. Like, she's the adult. And like I said, I didn't want to make it seem like Katniss's mom isn't capable of this, but Katniss is not capable of trusting her mom to be able to do this because their relationship was so damaged. It's really sad.
It really is. So they just like cling to each other, and eventually electric goes out, and there's a brief moment of panic, and the generators come on, and it's like very low light, but at least they have some. And then Coin comes on and is like, apparently his information was sound, and we owe him a whole lot. Stay in your assigned areas. We expect that there's going to be more. Our sensors say that they're not nuclear, but that was some real shit. So just batten down the hatches.
Yeah, and then they come and get the mom and say, like, we need you at the hospital, so she has to leave them anyway.
Mm-hmm. So this is when Katniss is like, all right, I've got to tune into Prim. I haven't even asked her how she's holding up. And she says, how are you liking 13? And Prim's like, right now?
That was really good.
And she says, I miss home, but I have to remember, like, there's nothing to miss. It's not there. And we don't have to worry about you the same way now that we're here. And they're going to train me to be a doctor. And Katniss has this moment of just like, oh my God. A future where she could be a doctor. Like, here's what we're fighting for. Here's the point.
Yeah.
I really liked that.
I did too. Yeah. Something she couldn't even dream about in 12. And this is when she thinks about this is the sort of future rebellion can bring. And then Prim says, well, how about you? How are you managing? And don't just say you're fine. And Katniss ends up just telling Prim about Peeta, about how bad he looked, about how she thinks they must be killing him right now, you know? And Prim is comforting her and turns her attention away from Buttercup for a second to comfort Katniss. That made me laugh because Buttercup has been all up in the mix throughout this, right? Like he's got a little blanket wrapped around him, like a little thunder blanket wrapped around him, because thunder is the only thing that scares him, and it's so cute.
A little babushka over his head. And Prim is like, I don't think they're going to kill Peeta. And of course, Katniss assumes she's just saying something to comfort her. But then Prim continues, well, he won't have anyone left you want if he kills him. How is he supposed to hurt you then? And Katniss remembers Joanna saying, I'm not like the rest of you. There's no one left I love. And she's like, oh my God, she's right. And she says, so what do you think they'll do to him? Prim sounds about 1,000 years old when she speaks. Whatever it takes to break you.
Jesus Christ. And that is how it
End of
ends.
Chapter.
Yeah. It was hard to stop reading.
I bet.
I did.
And let me warn you now.
Hard.
2 chapters for you to read next time. And that second one, when it ends, you are going to be mad at me.
Yeah. I made my little note. I'll make a little extra note that says, be mad at Natasha.
You don't need a note. I promise. It'll just come naturally to you in the moment.
All right. Well, since I have to wait for the last one, I probably will wait to read until the night we record, because if I read tomorrow, I don't know if I'm going to last a week.
Yeah, I advise that because it'll definitely be difficult. Yeah. Oh boy. All right. So I'm sorry. I just keep thinking about there's just so much in this book that I just really wanted to read, and I needed to control myself, and I did the right thing. I am proud. I only added 2 more live reads to the chart, but nevertheless, definitely was a struggle.
Did you send me the updated chart?
No, I just put it out, but I put it in the patrons group, and I'll text it to you.
All right.
But yeah, I just did it.
Okay.
You guys, you get it. Everybody listening gets it. I know you all understand.
I'm so excited. I have just been enjoying these so much. They've been so good.
Yay! I'm so glad.
I am so surprised. Like, I didn't know a lot about the series, but I remember the movies sort of being like a big deal. And I remember like being like, oh, I should check it out. And I told you guys this when we started. I tried to watch the first one and it was so boring. I didn't even make it past the train. And I just kind of wrote them off after that. And I'm so glad that we decided to do them because they are just phenomenal. I've been enjoying them.
I'm so glad I decided to re-listen because I would never have I just read them in the complete wrong mind frame and didn't give them any credit the first time. Very little. Not none, but very little. And it was only on the reread that I got it, you know?
Yeah, I had like one or two people who have recently like mentioned it in passing and like I didn't stay for the whole conversation, but I commented like, oh my God, I'm reading these right now and they're so good. And then I just bounce away because I don't want to like spoil it or anything. But yeah.
The correct method. All right. So since we're wrapping up, you know, you guys know what we have to do at this point.
Is it going to work
it's
this
time for the anthem.
There they are. Those air horns, man, they let us down last time.
They are delayed still, though. Like, that was a good 3 seconds after I pressed the button.
Oh, was it?
So, yeah, so we're only going to do that one air horn this time. So this week, we have got 6 new patrons. So exciting.
Yay!
We have Sean Golly, Brian Leo, Diana Wick, Michael Chilson, Sarah Eddy, and Stacy Mitchell.
Yay!
Welcome to all of you. Thank you all so much for joining us as patrons, supporting the show. I hope that you guys are listening to some of the patrons only stuff and enjoying that. Miles and I we just wrapped on the 10th Sookie book. So we are almost to the end of the series. There's like 3 more books and that's it. And we're having such a good time. This last book was like really a ride. And if you're interested in listening to us talk about that, and also Miles and I covered Twilight together, which was super fun, go to patreon.com/unspoiled. You can pledge, and you can also follow us for free and get updates. I really recommend doing that, guys, so that if there's a missing episode, you're not going, where is it? You will already know. You will have the info. And also any other like updates, like this new reading breakdown I posted on the Patreon. Any information that is going to affect like posting or recording of any kind, I'm putting on there pretty much exclusively at this point because other platforms just don't bother letting you see it. So it's sort of at this point, I just found out yesterday, I'm so irritated. I've been using this program to post automatically from one spot onto Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and the patrons only group. Twitter has made it so that these third-party apps have to pay for API. So they're no longer posting to Twitter the way that they were. And now Facebook is making it so that you can't use third parties to post to groups anymore. They're all just like making it impossible for me to use them in an easy way without actually going to each separate platform. Come on, guys. Come on. Why? For what reason? I just really do want to know. Like the posting to groups has been such a boon. And now anyway, so please, if you want to stay on top of the information, get notifications about stuff, become a patron, or follow us for free, patreon.com/unspoiled. And also those of you who were like noticing that the website was down, I got rid of the site because it was just really expensive, but I am now, unspoiledpodcast.com leads to like a link tree. It's called Campsite, but everybody knows what link tree is and nobody knows what Campsite is. Sorry, Campsite, your branding is off. So that's why I keep calling it a link tree. But it leads to like, you know, the links to the lives and to Patreon and to where to book an episode and all of that stuff. And I'm going to add eventually, I'm trying to figure out a way to add like an events calendar and stuff like that. So, doesn't have episodes uploaded to it. That was one of the main functions of my old site, and I am just not doing that anymore. But it is a place to go for the directions to other important places for the podcast. That's really what its function will be from now on. I think that's everything. So yeah, thank you again, you guys, for pledging. Appreciate you so much. And I hope everybody who has been listening to this is enjoying the coverage, and I hope that they're ready for this live read next episode. I'm excited about it. Excited in like a weird way because it feels kind of gross to be excited about, but I am. And thank you, Rashawn, for going on this wild ride with me.
Yay!
I love you, lady.
For a ride. I love you too.
All right, everybody. We will see you next week. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Are you coming to the tree where dead men call out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.